When it comes to any game, the things that I enjoy the most is all the personal achievement stuff, you know. So whether it be like you create a character and you unlock all the cool custom pieces to make them look a special way, the special skins that you unlock for your guns or your tag name at the bottom of the screen, going prestige, going platinum, unlocking all the trophies, finding all the Easter eggs, finding all the hidden gems, or walking into an online lobby and wiping the floor with everyone. These are the things that I enjoy the most. And Sorare has been absolutely no different. Now, the thing that a lot of people associate with what's fun about Sorare and why should I play this game is, you know, selling cards for thousands of pounds, winning podiums, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's amazing. And it's tons and tons of fun. But you only get to that stage, guys, by focusing on the stuff that you can actually have fun with on a day-to-day basis, okay? So when you open your account, you're opening your club. To get to that stage where you are walking into the online lobby and wiping the floor with everyone, and it's so rare that's in the big game weeks, getting really high up on the leaderboards. It starts off, first of all, with you knowing where you're going to go and how you're going to take your club. Now, because this is the real world of football, when you're building your account, you start your club up with Sorare, you get to name it, you get to pick your badge, you get to pick your banner, you can do absolutely anything you want to customize it to make it yours. My club's called FC Barcelona. I'm from Scotland. You can probably work out how that names came about. And my philosophy for my club is I love buying Celtic players that are present and past, and I love buying City Football Group players. I'm a big Man City fan, so former Man City players out on loan throughout Europe, guys that play for New York City, guys that play for Yokohama Marinos. These are the things that build my base philosophy for the club. Top of that, you then need to go and look at the foundation pieces that you're going to get that fit your philosophy, that later on, once you've done that, you can then sprinkle on top that wonder kid that you've been dying to back on Sorare or something like that. That guy you watched at the weekend who is well underrated by the world of football, and his Sorare card is super cheap and you've spotted him and no one else has. All that stuff becomes available to you once you've got that philosophy in place and once you've got those core foundation pieces. In the video today, guys, I'm going to be breaking down both of those things for you. The philosophies that are available and what ones you might be looking at, as well as the structure of the foundation of the club that you need to be buying and building as soon as you open your account. Now, you might be watching this and you've opened your account 6-8 months ago, and there's tons of stuff here that's going to help you as well. You might be brand new and you're still trying to figure everything out. Please stay to the end of the video. There's tons of stuff here that's going to help you out, and I hope you enjoy it. If you haven't even opened your account yet, there's a link in the description down below that will get you a free card once you've bought 5. It is the best way to sign up, and if you don't do that, you're a card down versus every other player in the Sorare market. So make sure you just click that link and sign up directly, then it's done and you can forget about it. Come back to the video and we'll get stuck into it. Any point in the video, guys, if you laugh, you learn, you like something, please do me a massive favor and smash that thumbs up button below, hit subscribe and turn the notifications on. It goes a long way to supporting the channel, and it means I can bring more and more content to you. I hope you enjoy this one, guys, and let's get stuck into it. Now, the biggest headache I've had around making this video is where to start. There's so many things to talk about and discuss. We're going to start with philosophy, right? Because I think the philosophy of the club that you're going to start with is probably the most personal part of it all, you know, the thing that you really identify with. Now, as I mentioned to you in the intro, I am very well connected philosophy-wise to the things that I'm exposed to in the real world of football already, in terms of the teams I support and the players I've came in contact with through my fandom of following different teams around the world. But for you, maybe you've only ever watched your local team, maybe you've only ever followed your own domestic competition, and now Sorare is really exploding that vision out for you, and you're now exposed to many, 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 many more leagues, clubs, and players than you ever have been before, and it can be quite intimidating, overwhelming, and daunting. But the first thing I would always say with your philosophy, as soon as you open your account, you've hit that link, you sign up to Sorare, and you're looking to buy your first couple of cards, you will know instinctively the first 2 or 3 guys that you really know a lot about. You can identify with them, you know, they're good players and they fit, you know, you can buy those cards and enjoy having them, whether they're producing an SO5 every week or not. Those are the first cards you want to be locking in to your favorites list. Maybe you buy them on day 1, maybe you buy them on day 100, but those guys, always get them favorited as quickly as you can, and always be keeping a track on their pricing, because those guys that you will get a lot of enjoyment out of having, whether it be the SO5 production they can give you or whether it is to satisfy your own personal fandom, you will not be able to predict the best time to pick those guys up. You will never be able to predict the cheapest opportunity to get them in. So by having them in your favorites, it means when that time arises, should the stars align and the situation becomes available to you, you can see it. Because there's nothing worse than you hop on Twitter and you see the Sorare bot telling you about all the market pricing that's happening, and you see a guy going for a price that you would have paid, and now he's gone and you need to wait for it to come back around. It's an absolute kick in the teeth. So the guys that you know straight off the bat, you should be going through Sorare, searching their names out and hitting follow on all of them to make sure that you can stay on top of their current pricing and their availability. Once you've done that, what you'll quickly see is you've either got a load of one position or you've not got very much, okay? Now, if you've got like 500 midfielders on your favourites, but like 2 defenders and 1 striker, you can see quite easily there's lots of midfielders on the platform that I can buy, that I can connect and engage with, and I can buy with confidence that I know what I'm getting for my money in terms of their SO5 production, their collectability, whatever it might be. Then that gives you the springboard to go, right, okay, well, I have no idea which strikers I'm going to be picking up. I've never gave any consideration to a goalkeeper that I might like. And then once you notice where the gaps in your core knowledge base is for your philosophy, is where you can move out and start to think about where you're going to expand your knowledge base and where you're going to start to cast your eye to find the next hidden gem or that standard bearer piece that's going to come in to the club. Now, some of you will be sitting there thinking, Quinny, what the hell's a standard bearer? If any of you don't know this, right, back in the day, hundreds of years ago, when they used to have armies knocking about with horses and crossbows and all that kind of stuff, you would have a guy called a standard bearer. What he was a guy that walked about with a big flag that said that this is the army that we are, we're charging over the hill and we're coming for a fight. That guy is never Achilles from Troy. It's never Brad Pitt. This is standard bearer, the best fighter, the gladiator, the titan. They don't carry the flag. The guy that carries the flag is the weakest guy in the army. And that's where the term standard comes from. When you hear people talking about standards, that is coming from the standard bearer. He's the weakest guy in the army. So if he's actually pretty strong, then it gives you a good indication on the strength of the rest of the army. But if he's really, really weak, then he's really, really weak. And it doesn't say much about the army, does it? Now, that's not to say your standard bearers are going to be weak. Like I said at the beginning, if the standard bearer is strong and robust and can really hold their own, then it says a lot about the army that they're coming in with. So who could be your standard bearer? Who could be the guy that comes in that really shows what your philosophy is all about, what your club's all about, and what you're going on and looking to achieve? And for me, standard bearers, the best place to find them is in defense. When it comes to defenders, they come in all shapes and sizes, and they're so competitively priced all across the Sorare market because there's lots of choice, lots of variety, and lots of availability. And when you have that situation in a market, then you will find things get competitively priced and become much more affordable. Unfortunately, not many of us come into Sorare with unlimited budgets and tons of ETH and tons of money, so we do need to make economical decisions as early as we can. And the defense pieces that you're going to pick up are going to be your standard bearers, the ones that set the standard for the rest of the club that's about to be built on top of them. Now again, if you're not terribly close to a lot of defenders in the real world of football and you're thinking, right, Quinny, that sounds great, but I only watch the Premier League, or I only watch this league, they've not got cards, or I follow this team, they've not got cards. What defenders can I go and find out there that aren't actually standard bearers? And I'll give you the very essence of a profile. Now, you might be thinking, Quinny, that all sounds amazing, but where do I find defenders like that? What do they look like? What do they feel like? How much do they cost? The profile of a defender that you're going to be looking for to become your standard bearer, for me, is going to be somebody over the age of 25 and probably under the age of 33. The reason I say that is because for defenders, especially centre-backs, this is the peak age of their career where they're going to be first-team choices. And as you know, with real-world football defences, guys, successful teams have got stable defenses that play every match, they form partnerships, they build that chemistry together, and you can rely on them to be selected 9 games out of 10. I would always put a preference on centre-backs over full-backs for a similar reason, because you know centre-backs can have much more consistency in the scores that they produce for their team. Fullbacks are much more dependent on the opposition they're against because they do unfortunately lose a lot of points with the attacking motions that they make that don't become successful. Centre-backs don't really get themselves into real-world football situations the same way that fullbacks do, so they don't really suffer the same penalties, but they do have a lot of plus points, you know, for the passes that they circulate the ball around. Now, I wanted to start this segment off by talking about defenders and the sort of profile we should be looking for, because for me, it's the least exciting part. To be honest with you, I always like doing the things that I have much more fun with. I like buying the guys that excite me, and Not a lot of us are going to get that excited about centre-backs that are over the age of 25. So I want to get them out the way. I want to just make sensible purchases, guys that fit my philosophy, guys that will be the standard bearer, a guy that will produce, can produce, does produce. And then from there, I'm going to go and buy the fun pieces. Now, for me, the fun pieces are always an attack. When it comes to midfielders, on the platform, you will find midfielders that are wingers. You'll actually find some that are really forwards. There's a few of them that are actually defenders, and there are some of them that are just generic centre mids, box to boxes, number 6s, number 8s. You guys knows all the terms already. But for me, midfield is where all the fun is to be had, because there is such a wide variance on profiles, on score potential, on pricing. And when you're shopping for these things and there is so many variants, there's so many dynamics going on, that's when you really can turn a coin, you know, where you can find somebody that is really underpriced and really overlooked and either flip them on later on for profit or get them into your club way undervalue, and you've maybe picked up somebody who you would have otherwise not been able to afford if the cat was out the bag and everybody knew what you knew about them. Very similar to centre-backs, key midfielders in important teams very rarely get rotated, and the makeup of the actual real-world football team is dependent on the strength of their midfield. You see that more and more in modern football. Whoever the controlling centre mids are, whoever the attacking flair is, whoever the key attacking wide players can be, are really fundamental to any team's results. And again, for me, shopping for midfielders is the most fun you're going to have. Now, if you're looking at a guy who's like a number 10, typical midfielder attacking player, unfortunately most of these guys, most of them, can be very decisive action capable. What's a decisive action? A goal or an assist, okay? You will get some guys who will take set pieces, will peel into wide areas and get lots of crosses and attempted assists off, and they can score fantastically well. But you do have the opportunity with midfielders to make the most out of some of the less, for lack of a better term, sexy players. You know, the guys that do the dirty work, the water carriers, the guys that move the ball left to right, keep the team in possession, keep the team on the front foot, keep the opposition under pressure, because these guys collect lots of SO5 points, and the right guy and the right team could be what we call a game buster. You know, but they're all across the platform now. These controlling midfielders that don't do anything at the top end of the pitch when it comes to scoring and creating chances, but they keep the ball ticking over, they keep their team in possession, and they rack up lots of what we call all-round score with all their passing and tackling that they're doing throughout the 90 minutes. Now, the guys that can hit those bigger scores on a much more regular basis will always be much more expensive. As you move down the chain of command, or the food chain, if you like, of the most expensive to the cheapest, you're going to find a smaller frequency of success with these guys. You know, that's why they're cheaper, because they're just less dependable to get those upper greens, those peak scores. And the guys that are much more expensive are generally much more reliable to deliver. So with midfielders, you really do get what you pay for by and large. But like I said at the tip off of this segment, you can get some diamonds in the rough, because there is such an abundance of choice in terms of the profiles, and because of that, again, you'll just find competitively priced cards in this area, and you will definitely find guys who are underpriced by comparisons in the market that you'll find out there. Now, when I was talking about defenders, I was talking about the key age, and we're talking about like 25 to 32. For midfielders, again, depend on the profile that we're talking about. They could really be any age. The unfortunate thing with Sorare, especially when you're brand new, is under 23s have got such a huge premium on them, especially ones that play, and especially ones that can perform. And they can price a lot of people out the market. So I would not be looking at under 23 when you're first building your team up for your key pieces that you're looking to pick up, because they will be much more expensive. And because of the cost of the goalkeeper, which we'll come to later, it's just not economic. You need to be making the most economic decisions for your foundation that goes in with your philosophy when you're starting off. If you can get a midfielder that is... If you can identify a midfielder that has the potential to be taking set pieces, they don't need to take every set piece, but maybe they take all the right-handed corners, or maybe they take all the really deep free kicks from the halfway line. If you can find a guy that can take some set pieces like that, can win some tackles and make a lot of passes throughout a match, those guys can be super valuable. Me personally, I'm a huge fan of box-to-box midfielders. Guys that touch both ends of the 18-yard box for defense and attack. Maybe they can collect about 5 goals a season, nothing incredible, and maybe like 5 assists a season. Again, nothing incredible. But those guys, for me personally, just the way I like to watch football, the guys that can get involved in all areas of the pitch, whether they're against a tough opponent or an easy opponent, are the guys I enjoy watching, the guys I enjoy buying, and the guys I have full confidence in picking in my teams every week. Some of those guys are better than others, of course, but the ones that I will pick when there's a no-win situation, there's a no-right situation, are the ones that come in with my philosophy that I told you about at the beginning of the video. Final outfield position we need to consider is the offensive players, the attackers. Now, For me, this is the biggest like honey trap that's on the platform, because strikers, unfortunately, when it comes to Sorare and the way the scoring matrix has worked, there is a very much a black and white situation with some strikers. They're either all about a goal or an assist, and if they don't get that, they're not going to break over 40 points, which is not going to get you into the top end of the leaderboards. Or they're real AA all-round machines. Maybe they're wider players. They win dribbles. They get attempted assists. They get assists. They get goals. That sort of thing. But the guys, again, like I mentioned, with midfielders that do have that repetitive production of they are beating their man in one-on-one dribbles. They are getting down to the final third. They are making those attempted assists on a regular and consistent basis. Their price will reflect that. So when you're looking for forwards, unfortunately, people will make a economic decision that's actually a false economy. So by buying a really cheap striker who is maybe going to get 5 goals a season, plays for a rubbish team, does not interfere with the game as it's playing throughout, there may be a big target man or something like that, yeah, you can afford that guy. Yeah, he is really cheap, and yeah, he does play all the time, but he's not going to help you move on. He's not going to help you move up the leaderboard at really any stage unless there's a dramatic change in their output. Now, if you're buying a guy like that because you expect their output to change, then fair enough. But you shouldn't be buying these guys looking at what they're doing at the moment. They range between 30 points and 45 points on 90% of their matches. They don't score that many goals. They don't get that many assists. These guys are a waste of space. Equally, the wide players that cannot break past 60 points with a decisive or without, again, they're going to really put a glass ceiling on your success. Okay, now when you're starting out, you will need to look for budget players. You will need to look for ones that are cheaper. And it comes back to the whole standard bearer thing again. The first forward or two you're going to pick up, they should be guys that you can hang your hat on, that you know that, yeah, maybe the guy does only score 5 to 10 goals a season. Not every striker is Cristiano Ronaldo or Lewandowski or Messi, Mbappe, Haaland. You know, we've got our head in the clouds with these high-profile strikers. Not that many strikers in the real world of football break these numbers. But there is plenty of guys out there that will hit 10 to 15 goals a season, or maybe even just 10 to 15 decisives with their assists combined. You know, they play in a team, they're part of the attacking force, they link up well with their teammates, they do set other people up, they do interlink with play. But because they're 28 and they're not going to get a move to Real Madrid and they're never going to score 50 goals a season, these guys can be very much overlooked and underpriced in the market compared to a guy who's 22 who does the exact same thing, or a guy that's 25 who plays for like a big team who's tipped to go even bigger and make it really bigger on in their career. With strikers, you are really looking dead early on for those guys that have been down the road and can consistently score and assist a certain amount of goals every season. And ideally, guys, for me, when you're brand new, you do want to be looking at strikers that are 27, over the age of 27, and really no older than 33, 34, because by that time, you're kind of getting to the back end of your career. Minutes tend to diminish. You want a guy who's quite comfortably in the peak of their career, at the peak of their powers. Maybe the peak of their career is the Belgian league or the Austrian league, and that is fine, guys. Not everyone is going to go on to win the Ballon d'Or and feature in the World Cup. But with this profile in mind, that's why I keep having the standard bearer thing come back, like we were talking about with the defence, because the first striker or two you pick up, if you can get a profile like we're talking about in your price range, no matter what scarcity we're talking about, a guy like that should just be locked away, and he is. Yeah, he didn't score this week. He didn't get his thing. He only brought in 45 points. You live and die by that, and you move on to the next game week. And then do you know what? They're on penalties. They got a goal from open play, and they scored a penalty. This week he scored 2, and he brought it home at 80 points. Absolutely fandabidozy. Because the reality of it is, all across SO5, the majority of strikers, to get the peak scores, are decisive action reliant. But the majority of the market is always going to put much more of a premium, much more of a focus and an onus on the guys that are younger, that have a longer lifespan, have the ability to move up in their career, have the ability to play under 23s as well, because that does carry a premium, as we mentioned earlier. But when you're starting out, you've laid out your philosophy. All you need is a solid forward that you know will play most game weeks and can bring in a reliable score across the season. Strikers will peak in form. All their goals might come in a 3-month period and then they do nothing all the season for after that. Some guys will drop their goals evenly throughout the season. There's lots of different ways strikers will contribute to their team, and you have to understand that. There's very few guys that will score every week, whether it be goals and assists. There's just not many of them out there, and they will be priced accordingly, no matter if they're in Europe, Asia, or America. Your job with these philosophy pieces, these key profiles we're vitamized now, is to get the ones that are the most economic for you, the ones you can pick up as cheap as possible and run with for as long as possible. You're not going to dump them in 2 days, change your mind in a month. Oh, I didn't really realize this guy was that crap. and sell them out. These are the guys you have to kind of know what you're buying when you pick them up. And then we come to goalkeepers. Now, goalkeepers, I've left these to last, right? Because it's the most frustrating position to talk about. Because, like we've been speaking about with defenders and midfielders and forwards, I suppose, variety and options are what will dictate the market and make the market pricing competitive. Now, with goalkeepers, as you'll know, with football, there's only one per team, and there's only generally one per football squad that will play 90-95% of the matches. So, because of that, the availability and the variety available is much more narrow, and subsequently the prices are reflected in that. They're much more expensive. I would always be looking at the goalkeeper last as my purchase, because they're comfortably the most expensive piece. When you start off, as you know, you'll get some common cards and you can run with them for a little bit while you're figuring things out. As you'll know, you get your common cards to start off with, so you can use your common goalkeeper while you're building these limited cards in that we've been speaking about. And then later on, once you've got these foundation pieces in, is when I would recommend you go and look for the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper is going to be such a big purchase that you want that to be bought and be useful straight away. Buying the goalkeeper first, in a way, is great advice, but if you buy the goalkeeper first, and then you will have the fire under your bum where you want to go and buy the rest of the pieces really quickly so you can get them into a team. Whereas if you do it the other way around, you wait for the goalkeeper to become last. As soon as you get the goalkeeper in with your 2 standard bearer defenders, your box-to-box midfielder, and then your 10 goal a season 28-year-old forward, you're ready to go after that. Now, because I'm saying get the goalkeeper last in this situation in terms of the profiling that you're doing, doesn't mean that you leave it to last to research it. Like I said at the top of the video, you should be identifying guys you can maybe afford, guys that fit the profile that go in line with the other pieces you've already picked up in terms of what territory they're in, what age they're in, the scarcity that you're shopping in, so that when that time comes, you've saved up your money, maybe you've done a few trades with some players that you've bought under price, you've flipped them around or whatever, you can step into the market and you know these three goalkeepers are the guys I'm looking at, that fit the rest of my squad, that fit my philosophy, that I would be excited to own, that I would buy and I can use every game week. And then, like I said, when you go out and you bring them into the club, you can get to work right away. Okay, so you've been in the market, you've found your defenders, you've found your midfielders, you've found your forwards, you've got them into the club, and then eventually you've been out and you've grabbed the goalkeeper or two that you're going to bring into the club. You're ready to rock. What now? We're going to be walking into SO5. It's a 5-a-side tournament, so we should have another couple of positions lined up that fit the philosophy as well. We're not just looking for one defender, one midfielder, and one forward and one goalkeeper. That's just 4. We need at least 5, and the chances are maybe a guy's suspended, maybe a guy's injured or whatever. So in realistic terms, to get up and running and actually get competing, you'll probably need about 7 or 8 cards. Now, thankfully, once you buy 5, you get a free one anyway. So that'll get you up to 6, and then once you've got there, it's just about buying another piece or 2 that you find a good opportunity with an auction or a secondary market trade with another manager. What we need to do at that point is take a step back. We've built the team. We've got our first 7 or 8 cards in. We've got our free one. We've picked up a goalkeeper. We've got a standard bearer or 2 of a defender. We've got a few box-to-box midfielders that take set pieces. And we've got a striker or 2 that we know what we're getting with. What are we aiming for now? For me, the first number that everyone aims for is 250 points on Sorare, and that's a very easy goal to set when you get 5 players at start. The reason a lot of people set that objective is because of the Ethereum thresholds when you play in the rare division. Chances are you've bought a lot of these cards and they're limited, the yellow or gold ones. So the Ethereum threshold is not really an offer for you. So what are you actually aiming for then? You're aiming to get all these guys into one division. I always recommend you start with the Global All-Star because that's a global division. So it means you can pick these players up from all the corners of the earth and put them together. And you don't need to worry about, oh, well, that guy can only play the America region. This guy can only play the European region or whatever. But with that first little core, it's all about getting to global and getting yourself up and running. The assessment we then need to make at this point is this team capable of hitting over 350 points? The reason I say over 350 points is because that was my target. That was my objective when I first started on the game, because I've seen 350 points. That's an average of 70 across your positions, excluding your captain multiplier and excluding your bonus for XP. But that is a good score. That is a competitive score that will get you in amongst the pigeons every single game week, fighting for prizes, maybe even fighting for podiums if it's a really quiet game week or it's a midweek game week or a special weekly. Maybe the foundation pieces you've picked up, their average scores are not going to ring up to 350 points, including the captain and including the XP multipliers every single game week. But what you're looking for is at least they can get close to that more often than not. Once we've then established that core, that foundation, those standard bearers, is when we can go into the market and start to build the squad. If you've enjoyed this video, guys, there's a follow-up video coming out. It will be linked at the end of this one called Squad Builder, and we'll be going through the exact mechanics of how to build your team up from these first 7 or 8 cards up to the first 20. If you have enjoyed the video, guys, please do like and subscribe and share and retweet and all that good stuff. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next video.
Ethereum.